Hello everybody, welcome into the latest video. This is Life Taps and Backstabs. Welcome to the latest video, and today it's incredibly warm here today in England. I was going to do a Dialord video today, however I've been trying to stay away from the studio and away from the computer just to try and cool down a little bit. Yeah, welcome to my channel. This is Life Taps and Backstabs. This is where I talk about my three favourite classes in Pantheon. Rise of the Fallen, which is the Rogue, which you can see me here, stabbing away, the Necromancer and the Dialord, with also some smatterings of the Enchanter as well. Now, I was going to do a Dialord video today, but like I was saying, it was incredibly warm here today, so I thought I would just kind of take a little bit of a day off. But then Pantheon drops patch notes, like a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a nod of surprise. Sneaky patch, so we've got some patch notes to talk about today. So if we go over to Discord, we can have a look and see what they are all about. Okay, the obvious kind of first place to start, we have the general patch notes, just like a couple right up at the top. They've added a name filter to the vendor window, which is going to be it's actually going to be really useful, and it's going to be more useful than you think it is, because the vendor window, particularly for things like the schematics, when you're kind of scrolling through looking for schematics which you need, they've all got the same, and I'm sure they're going to kind of correct this, and well, not really correct, but like address it in future patches. They've all got the same icon, like all the schematics tend to have the same icon. Icons aren't iconic, if that makes sense. Like the bear tallow one, you can recognize the bear tallow really quickly. You can recognize certain other kind of vendor items really quickly, but things like just even simple things like stale bread and water they're really difficult to kind of pick out. Spoilers, because they're brown. It's another brown icon. The game is all brown. So things like mineral water, a flask of water and the stale bread. The mineral water not so much, because it's like a big blue bottle and you can kind of pick out the mineral water a bit more. But when you're kind of scrolling through schematics, they've all got the same. Like if you're looking for a blade, they've all got the same icon. If you're looking for some armor scales, they've all got the same icon. So they're a really tricky thing to kind of pick out when you're scrolling through. There's something about scrolling. It's the same as when you're kind of scrolling through your spell book as well. As soon as they put, or as soon as they can put a spell book in, which we can kind of turn pages and organise, so we can have all our poisons on one page and all our techniques on another page. That's going to be so helpful. But just scrolling through things, there's some weird mental psychological thing that when you're scrolling through and you can't find the thing that you're looking for. So actually just having a name filter, that's a very big long rambling little chat about how good the name filter is going to be. But to actually have a name filter, and when you're going in and you know what you're searching for and just typing in the first few letters and having that pop up is going to be really useful. Grocer vendors, including several innkeepers, now also sell mineral water and trail rations. Yes! So I'm guessing that is going to be in at places like Skydurban. At the moment, you can only get the mineral water and trail rations. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not really a big thing if I am wrong, but you can only get them in Demith at the moment. So I keep having to port my just like the general, like I've got a druid that can port around and I've got a wizard who can port me around. I keep having to port them over and port some of my other classes over to Demith just to buy mineral water and trail rations, because when I'm not fighting actively, it's just so much quicker to be able to kind of just click on those and forget, drink and forget about that. So that's really good. So hopefully that's going to be up in Skydurban. The grocer vendor in Skydurban, I believe, is going to be the one that's opposite the bank. So when you go to the bank, just turn around and look up, and there's a little tent behind you, so you can go in there and you should be able to get mineral water and trail rations. And I would imagine that will be the same for Eastern Plains, the vendor up in Eastern Plains, and fingers crossed also just for Thronefast. So if you do end up with a little bit more gold than you know what to do with when you're leveling up at the lower levels, then you can go and grab them in Thronefast as well. Okay, so let's have a look at a few bug fixes before we get into the real juicy bits. So bug fixes, they've taught some of the snakes that were standing to stay on the ground where they belong. Now this was hilarious. This was a bug that was created when the cripplings, or it seemed to be created when they tried to sort out the cripplings. So the cripplings, when you killed the cripplings down in Halnir, they didn't fall dead. They stayed standing up. So to correct that, they seem to have ruined all the snakes and some of the mountain stalkers and everything as well like that. So the cripplings for the last few weeks have been sliding around on the floor, so that now hopefully they are standing up, and then when you kill them they are dead. And the same with the snakes. When you start killing them, they are flat, and when you do kill them, they stay flat. So seem to have been a little bit of a connection with those. So, and also the cripplings now no longer lying down on the job, so they should be standing up, and then when you kill them, hopefully they should lie down. Same with the mountain stalkers as well. Some of those have been standing upright, so now they should be on all feet, all 4 feet. It's a weird way that coding works sometimes. There is a possible fix for another double death case. If you have been suffering from double dying, then hopefully there's a possible fix coming in for that. And they've also fixed an issue where a player's inventory could be listed out in the chat window on login or zoning as if they've just received new items. Now this was something that's been going on for a while. I've had it a couple of times. So when you zone, it gives you a white list of every single thing in your inventory. On some occasions, it would give you a list of everything you've got in the bank as well. It was ridiculous. I don't know why it happened. It's only happened to me like a couple of times, and it's a long time ago when it has. However, I have had a couple of friends who have said it's popped up when they've been zoning recently. So it's good that they found the issue and fixed that. They've also fixed an issue where some skills that a class has had were not being displayed in the skills list. Known issue, a skill that was just learned sometimes still doesn't display in the list until you zone or relog. Should be fixed in a future patch. I wonder whether that's a similar thing to when you click your technique to put your technique on your bar, it says that there isn't any room on the bar, but it still puts the technique on there. I wonder whether it's a kind of a link into that. Anyway, that has now been fixed. And then the molten key is now correctly tagged as a quest item, which is excellent because you had the key and it wasn't a quest, and it doesn't trigger it as being finished. So that's excellent. Good. And of course, that now means that we can finish the Ash Breathers quest line to get access to the raid mob as well. So the molten key dropped off the last mob in that quest line. So it dropped off. I'm not going to spoil it off. I'm not going to spoil it for you. So the molten key is the key that you need to get into the raid boss, and that was the thing that was bugged. And they had a room on their Discord where you could post once you got to the end of the quest line for that key, because once you finish the quest, it didn't give you that key. So there we go, all sorted, perfect. And now everybody in my main group, who you can see the names up above me in my group window, all those people in the group can now successfully finish that quest item, which is perfect. We're all at the end, and we couldn't finish it. Right, the world patch notes. We've had the final encounter for the Ash Breathers Enclave has been adjusted to resolve some bugs and prevent potential exploits. Now, one of the potential exploits, and we have tried this. I'm going to come straight out and say it. We have tried it because the encounter has been so bugged. We've not been able to, like when you're trying to break in and sort out a raid boss for the first time, you need to have consistent mechanics so that you can test the consistent mechanic ideas that you have. Okay, this mob is spawning these things which are damaging us. If we do this, if we try this tactic, then maybe it's not going to spawn them. Or if we try this tactic, it's going to spawn them somewhere where we can control them. Things like that. The encounter has been that buggy that we haven't been able to draw any real conclusions from it. So one of the things that we have been doing is pulling her out of the room with a shaman pet, so that we can a little bit more consistently draw some conclusions and get some data on what the raid boss is actually doing. So they've prevented that exploit. So I'm sure that wasn't going to be. We weren't trying to kill her. All we were trying to do is trying to get some data on what she was actually doing. So that's definitely going to be one of the things that they've adjusted and stopped doing. But then also, fingers crossed, they've actually sorted out some of the bugged. I'm picking my words carefully because I really don't want to spoil the raid boss for you all if you are trying it. Hopefully they've sorted out some of the bugged mechanics in that raid fight. There we go. I'm not going to say any more than that. So yeah, fingers crossed. We're going to try it again on Saturday, or at some point very, very soon, I'm sure. So fingers crossed those are now going to be, and we're going to be, the main thing that you want is you want a consistent raid boss that does the same thing, or the thing that you expect it to do every time, so that you can draw conclusions and then come up with a tactic to solve those challenges when you're fighting the raid boss. So that's all we were wanting, and it was so buggy we just weren't getting that consistently at all. So fingers crossed that is going to be a bit more achievable and accessible. Now this is an interesting one. Kvetra the Burning Banshee can now be triggered once per day. I thought she could only be triggered once per day anyway. Now the only thing that might have changed is that if a player attempts to trigger her twice, then the trigger will fail, but you won't lose the hair, because it's a hair that you get from the Cinderfolk in the trenches, and then if you get that, then you can turn it into the cauldron in the trenches, and then you can summon Kvetra. So the only thing I can think of is that I'm sure this didn't happen when we tried it actually, but we have had some reports that when you try to turn it in and she's already been summoned, that it eats the hair, it eats the quest item, that it takes forever to drop. Like we had 2 in the first 4 days, and then we've not had any since. So it's ridiculous how rare that hair drop is. So no real change to this, just that if it has been triggered already, you're not going to lose the hair that you've worked really hard to try to get. Totally random one here. Blinding powder from the Hangul Scout, the duration has been reduced and the cooldown has been increased. So you're going to get blinded for less time, and you're going to be blinded less often because the cooldown's been increased. Okay, sure. Blinding powder. Blinding powder dropped your hit rating, so you were hitting the mob less. I can't. That was never really an issue, but yay, congrats, they've made it easier for us. The White Wyvern health and mitigation has been reduced to single group scaling. The previous change was due to template adjustment impacting all NPCs in that category rather than an intentional change. I can only think that, because we do single group the White Wyvern, but I'm guessing that we might have out-leveled the White Wyvern to single group her. Okay, yeah, sure, okay, good. Maybe it was a little bit more of a 2/3 group character NPC for a while, but yeah, there we go. And then also numerous NPC ability fixes and damage adjustments. Now, there have been numerous NPC ability, and they haven't said anything about this. Now, there are a couple of mobs down in the Enclave which have had, they've not had difficult or challenging abilities, but they've had slightly inconsistent ones. Like, for instance, the Pyrosols. So the Pyrosols do 2 AoEs. They do a Whirlwind at about 90% of their health, and then they do a Burning Whirlwind at about 45% of their health. Now, unless you're on the aggro table, those AoEs don't hit you. And this is one of the things that I've been wondering whether that was intentional or not. So what we do is I sit next to the mob, and the monk in our group, so Wraithy in our group, as you can see in our raid window there, the group window there, the monk will knock the Pyrosol down to interrupt the first whirlwind, and then I'm standing there ready to mez the second whirlwind. Now, if those whirlwinds now hit you, even if you're not on the aggro table, then I'm not going to be able to interrupt that second whirlwind, so I'm going to have to back off. So there's just a few things in the Enclave that might have changed. So if you do head down to the Enclave, just be very, very careful. Be very particular and pay attention for the first time that you go down there, particularly down in the Enclave, because it's quite easy to get one or two of the mobs just kind of gets on top of you and causes some issues which might cause a group to wipe. So just be careful heading down to the Enclave now. Okay. Items. Okay, the activatable. There we go. The activatable equipped items now work in Combat 2. I'm trying to think of some now. Because the Warmonger's Totem is not equipable, so you can click that from the inventory. I'm sure there are some which are clickable. If you do know what the activatable equipped items are, drop them down in the link below. I don't know whether the Black Idol is the Black Idol equipable. I don't think that is either, is it? I think that's in the inventory as well. Anyway, so now you can click those in combat. So if they do run out while you're having a fight, you can now click them and they can kind of carry on, which is great. They've added a new heavy plate drop somewhere in the Ash Breather Temple, which is great timing because we've just kind of finished the Ash Breather Enclave on our mains. We've got all the drops that we need, so now we have to go back and do all the names again and try and find where this heavy plate is for the cleric and hope that it's a cleric item. So we'll see. Maybe we'll take our alt group because we are running an alt group up now as well. So as soon as we get a couple of levels on the alt group, maybe we'll drop the alt group down there and kill some names with the alts. So they've also, and this is interesting because we were wondering about this, they've changed the writhing stud from a guaranteed proc on dodge to a chance on any physical damage taken, which makes sense. Like it's a like a damage shield protection thing, but we didn't figure out that it procced on a dodge. We didn't figure that out at all. So we were wondering why it never procced, or very rarely procced on the Ash Breather Enclave mobs. But then when you go and kill like grey mobs or like non-group blue con mobs anywhere else, it procs all the time. It's because you're dodging all the time against the lower level mobs and you're not dodging as much against the Enclave mobs. So that's interesting. And kind of explains why we never saw it, or we rarely saw it proc up in the Enclave. So yeah, so it's now gone from a dodge, so as soon as you take damage, there's a chance that the writhing stud will then throw back some damage at the mob, which is cool. They've cleaned up some NPC ability functionality, damage and cooldowns. So again, that might be something similar to this one as well. Things like the Pyrosol, where the AoE that the Pyrosol doesn't hit you unless you're on the aggro table. It might be something like that. So just make sure whenever you're pulling mobs that have the ability and level to kill you, just make sure you're paying attention to their abilities now as well. The vendor price and sale price for Alchemical Flux has been increased. Just randomly just thrown in there. Yeah, we're going to increase the price for Alchemical Flux. I mean, in my opinion, that shouldn't even be sold anyway. That should be a way that an alchemist can make some money by making alchemical flux and selling it to jewelers and things like that. So yeah, the fact that you can purchase those kind of lower level crafting items, I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, anyway, it's been increased. I'm sure it will make no difference to any of the alchemical flux needed schematics. Right, so they have adjusted the stats on the Gown of the Hearth. It was missing one stat, and they've added intellect to it. And they've also added small spell power bonus as a placeholder. Now, the placeholder is because what they're trying to do going forwards is, rather than adding generic spell power, they want to add things like pure fire damage. So this item will give you a buff to fire damage. This item will give you a buff to poison damage and things like that. So the Gown of the Hearth is the one that drops off the Lich. I do need to get one for my Necromancer actually, so I need to find one for my Necromancer. Whether the int is going to make it worthwhile, I'm not sure, but the spell power probably will. Yeah, at the moment he's got the one from down at the bottom of Halnir, So that's the one he's currently wearing. The Necromancer's not even remotely twinked anyway, so apart from the weapons on the pet, as I've said in the previous videos. Okay, so the Charred Guardian's Cuirass shuffled the stats to add 4 Wisdom to shift the item towards Cleric usage to align with class armor usability goals based on level. Now this is awesome. They've also added 2 Spell Power as a placeholder stat to be replaced by specific damage type bonus later. So this is really, really cool. And that's the plate item, the plate item that's got the glowing claw marks across it, which just looks really, really cool. It's currently hasn't got any wisdom on it at all. It's one of those annoying ones where they did the stat change and they gave everything constitution. So it's got loads of constitution on it for some reason. Anyway, it's now got 4 wisdom on it. So I think that goes to 3 strength, 5 stamina, 6 constitution, and now 4 wisdom as well. And spell power, which is phenomenal. It's going to be really, really good. So that's great. And then the garnet studded emberlinks, which are the boots. They hang on, where are we? Sorry, they've reduced the charisma and added it elsewhere, and 1 additional missing point. I don't know. I don't know what that means. They've reduced the charisma, added it elsewhere, and 1 additional missing point. They're currently 3 stamina, 3 dexterity, 2 charisma. So they've reduced the they've reduced the charisma, so they can only have reduced it to 1. So it's now only got 1 charisma, and they've added it elsewhere. So maybe it's now 4 dexterity, and they've added another missing point. So maybe it's 4 dexterity and 4 stamina. Yeah, there we go. So they're quite nice. They're good. They're good Direlord boots. So yep, that's always going to be good. Like who actually needs charisma in this game at the moment anyway, but and also constitution, but yeah, anyway, the crystalline plate helm, which is excellent. They have reduced the charisma by 1, and they've also added wisdom by 1 and added a small spell power bonus as a placeholder as well. So again, this is going to be one of the ones that the damage or the heal is going to be added, so maybe it's going to do fire damage or poison damage or whatever to the spell power, and at the moment they've just added generic spell power, which is great. They have increased the item level of the investigator rings and added some extra stats, which is fantastic, because I've done the quest, or I'm halfway through. I say halfway through. I've got the last 2 steps to do for my Necromancer and my Direlord. So I've got all the way through to the end, but I've never really been incentivized to finish the quests, those quest lines off, because the rings themselves are not very good at all. They're like +1 intellect or +1 strength. So the fact that they're going to get some extra stats and they're going to get power bonus, either spell or melee, something like that, is going to be really, really good. So if you have got the investigator rings, A, congratulations for finishing the quest, and B, go and get them out of the bank and have a look and see what they're like. So the headband of woven crystal has had its int bonus moved to constitution, and the spell crit removed, since no monk abilities use that now. So monks now you get constitution on the headband of woven crystal. I'm just going to roll my eyes every time I see constitution. Right, they have corrected the AC value on the Frosthowl Raider Greaves. So these are the ones from the War Chief down in Hangor. Really, really nice items for Direlords. And they've corrected the AC value, so I'm sure that's now has gone up a little bit, which will be really, really good. Now, the Spear of Endless Frost now has +2 stamina, +27 crit, and +27 hit rating. Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a weapon now, actually. So it used to only have 2 wisdom, 27 crit, and 27 hit. So now it has 2 strength rather than 2 wisdom, and then the 27 crit and 27 hit. It's 29 damage, 2.4 delay, so it's pretty good. But yeah, so now it's got the strength on there rather than the wisdom, which probably fits, well, definitely fits better into the warrior, rogue, ranger, bard playstyle rather than putting wisdom on there, so that's good. So really simple one. The frost rimmed shield AC value has been removed. If you've looked at any of the shields, they've all had their AC values removed, and this one was just missed. And they've also corrected the block value, which is fine. The crystalline coat, however, to account for the freebie charisma stat points, since it's a pretty coat, they've increased the dex and the stamina on the crystalline coat. The crystalline coat is amazing. It's like 60 armor, 60 AC for a chain chest piece. It's fantastic. So now you get more dexterity and more stamina. As a Dire Lord, this cloak is just going to be amazing. They have shifted charisma to constitution on the crystalline leg plates, though, so no more charisma on those. And they have added, and I know a number of shaman who are going to be very, very excited about this, they have added the shaman to the list of classes which are able to wield the Scepter of Smouldering Symbols from down in the Enclave. It's a great scepter, and now the shamans can use it as well. And then finally, they've increased the con and the wisdom by 1 on the Emberweave Ceremonial Shawl. That's the shoulder item from the engraver down in the Enclave again, and con and wisdom. So it's now got 2 con and 3 wisdom, and 2 charisma as well. So yeah, it's still a really, really good back item, and yeah, it's got even better now as well with the plus con and wisdom. Okay, right, so the quest line. So the quest item that can be acquired from the final encounter in the Ash Breathers Enclave will now be granted to all players who meet the quest prerequisites and are in the room when the encounter is defeated, which is excellent. No more having to do it multiple times for each person in the group who has the quest ready to do. Hopefully they can extend that out to some of the other ones as well, like when you're killing Baron Sindrel and things like that. You have to kind of keep doing those because it doesn't drop quest items for everybody. And then a visual effect, this is really good actually, a visual effect will now display on the Ember Braziers in the Ash Breathers Enclave while the cooldown for their associated NPC is in effect. Now, I'm not going to spoil what the NPC is, but to summon it you have to go and light these braziers, and once it has been lit and once the NPC has been summoned and you've killed it, you can't summon it again for another like 30-40 minutes. But you don't know that because the braziers don't tell you that or anything. So that's really, really good. Now, crafting. There's only armor smithing in here. The schematic for Asherium chain links, which is required by some work orders, is now available for purchase on the Armorsmith trainer. Yay! Congrats! Great. Like, why? Anyway, yes. Classes address numerous stacking issues for buffs and debuffs. Still more issues to resolve, but feel free to submit any that are still stacking and not stacking properly. Yeah, as long as 2 necromancers in a group can still stack their dots, then I'll be happy. Buffs and debuffs stacking, so it's things like putting corrosive brew on the mob, and then being able to put pierced armor on as well. As soon as you have a rogue in the group, it completely negates the fact that you can put pierced armor on. If you have a necromancer in the group, he's got the best slow in the game, so you don't need to put any slows on the mob. Like debuffs, technique debuffs, I think everybody's kind of slowly moving away from them. I think the techniques, at least from my point of view, the techniques tend to be used for weakened and vulnerable, and that's pretty much about it. I don't know what it's like at lower levels, but then at lower levels you're not really getting the techniques early enough to make use of them before somebody, some class gets a debuff similar to what the techniques are doing. I still don't like the techniques. I don't like what they've done with techniques. They used to do interesting things. I don't like the rework on them, but at least they are addressing the stacking issues with them now, so nothing stacks. Anyway, long duration buffs have changed from 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Oh, we get an hour. We get an hour of buffs now. All the buffs are an hour. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Like, if you're going to force us to leave them on the bar so that we can cast the buff and it stays on the person that we've cast it on, then bumping it up to 60 minutes kind of makes sense. It's like one of those little quality of life things. So, yep, that's good. Long duration buffs, now 60-minute duration, which is great. Okay, so the classes. Oh, come on, be some good stuff. Cleric. Greater Restoration, or Greater Resurrection, sorry, which is 75% res, should now be on the correct bar and properly resurrect allies. It was, when it came into the game, it was put onto the ability bar rather than the utility bar, and when you cast it, it said you can't cast it on this person because they're dead, which was hilarious. So now that has been rectified, so any clerics out there, congratulations, you now have a 75% res. Channeling Ward now removes properly after casting from the undead line, and they have added new ranks to the Luminous Surge and the Burst line starting at level 32. Luminous Surge was the heal over time that you could put on somebody after you gained enough of your secondary resource. So as you were healing and doing damage and just being active in the fight, your secondary resource, and I forget what it's called, I'm very, very sorry, your secondary resource would build up, and then once you got one of that, then you could use it to use Luminous Surge. So now they've extended that, which is really good. And then they've also normalised most buff durations to 60 minutes, which they've already said. The Dire Lord, Thresh stacks from different players, and Corrupt Blood 5 now adds a Provoking Phantom stat and listed in the Codex as level 41, which is great. In the last patch, then it didn't add that Provoking Phantom stack, so you didn't get the extra aggro from it for using Corrupt Blood 5. The Druid, Herodes Flame 5 has been added to the vendors at level 50, so congratulations Druids, you now have a level 50 spell, and it's Herodes Flame, so you get something. And Herodes Flame checks for distance at the start of the cast rather than to the end to prevent failures due to minor range changes. Larger distance gaps will still cause the spell to fail plus 10 meters. If they could add that to all spells, that would be amazing, because as you're casting something, and I'm sure it did it in EverQuest, if you started casting something in range and it moved just out of range, it would still land as long as it didn't move like a long way out of range. So hopefully they can, like, plus or minus like 5 meters. If it moved 5 meters out of range, it would still land as long as you started casting when it was in range. And then Verdant Fire direct damage line, her damage has been increased slightly, so you can nuke even harder, Druids. You can nuke even harder. Fix an issue where cooldown wasn't being shared amongst ranks. And then Verdant Fire Pylum has been added to the vendors at level 48, which will be another Verdant Fire nuke, which will be great. The Enchanter now also has 60 minutes buffs, which is great. The Monk, Martial Prowess has been added to the vendors. Go and find out what Martial Prowess does, monks. Drop it down in the comments down below once you've found out what it does. And then the Flurry has been changed back to Dex scaling. I don't know what it changed to, actually. Was that a Constitution one? Was Flurry Constitution? Anyway, Double Dragon emerges Chi cast cost removed. And it's got a 5-second cooldown. So Double Dragon, you now have a cooldown on it. But you don't have to use Chi to use it. And Precision Hand Strike resist stacking has been fixed. They've updated the Sidekick Retaliation duration on scrolls. Sidekick Retaliation duration? I don't know what that is. Necromancers, we now have 60-minute buffs on our self-buff stuffs. Hopefully that's the same for the pet as well, because we have a pet haste that we can put on our pet. Hopefully that's now 60 minutes as well. Wrathful Aegis stacks from multiple paladins. Oh my god. Okay. And they've fixed a bug that prevented technique use with certain weapons equipped. Please report any outliers. Okay, so any techniques that you've been using with your weapons that have been bugged out should be fixed. And then Insight increased the threat window for all players during the buff window has been removed. Okay, so the Ranger, Beacon Grizzly and Beacon Panther now require line of sight to the target. Have you sorted out a graphic yet? Have we got a grizzly bear and a panther? Or do they still just stun invisibly? Sort out the graphic. Kaelin's command and withdrawal now require the target to be within 25 meters. Okay, there we go. Rangers. That will mean something to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. Congratulations. Now, weird one. The Rogue. Increased level scaling damage modifier on toxins. Great. But did we need that? Give us double backstab. Level 30. Level 30 backstab. Chance to hit twice. Increase level scaling damage modifier on toxins. Okay, so now our toxins hit harder. Congrats, rogues. We get a little bit more DPS from a weird place. Speaking of rogues, my rogue feedback video will be coming towards the end of the week. I've got loads of notes scribbled down. I've got to try not to miss anything on my feedback video. I want to be completely thorough with it, so it will be split into 3 videos. Right, so the Shaman. Grip of the Crags and Gale Strider should now be correctly listed as level 22 abilities in the Codex. There we go, nice and simple, and you get 60-minute buffs. That was easy. Summoner, Mana Pins properly applies debuff. I think this has been broken for about a year, so congratulations, you now have a technique that works. Warrior, Striker Breaking stacking rules have been cleaned up, which is great. Striker Breaking 4 debuff fixed. Rank 4 debuff applies 35% armor reduction. That's a lot. Down from 40%. It's still a lot. 35% armor reduction. If you don't have a rogue in your group, that's pretty bloody good. And then Banner of Warding decreases the spell damage by 10, 15 and 20 per rank, and increases melee damage by 10, 15 and 20, down from 10, 20, 30. Okay, so you're taking a little bit less damage in, but you're increasing that spell power going out. And then Taunt, increase the threat window for all players during the buff window removed. So they don't like increasing threat window for all players. So that's been removed from something else as well. Then the Wizard, finally, last little bit is the Wizard. Arcane Brand, now I have no idea on the Wizard. I've leveled my Wizard to level 15 and I got 1 kill in so that I was absolutely guaranteed to be level 15, and I haven't played her since. I hated it. I don't like the Wizard at all. So, Wizards, is this a good change or not? Arcane Brand properly applies a debuff. I'm guessing that's a technique like Mana Pins. So you get a magic resistance debuff, I'm guessing. Congratulations, there we go. And then Hot Shield Electrified lasts for 60 seconds and no longer remove each other. Don't know what that is, but congratulations, you now get a 60-second debuff on that. So, there we go. We've got patch notes for version 0.16.994 on the August the 13th, 2025. And there's some good changes in there. There's nothing groundbreaking. I don't think there's going to be much groundbreaking stuff in patches for a while, until we get things like new races, or the Bard drops in, or they go over and they redo the Summoner and the Necromancer and kind of get to working on those classes a bit. I would love to see some movement on another zone. I think Black Rose Keep is going to be the next zone that's landing from what they've been saying on social media. So I don't think that can come soon enough. Yeah, there we go. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below, what the patch notes is like. Rating wise, 5. There you go. Middle of the ground. 5 out of 10. Yeah, it's just average, isn't it? It's not changed anything massively. It's just little tweaks here and there, which is absolutely fine. Like I've been saying for a long time, they just need to get everything in the game and then they can start turning the dials. Like changing things like where's the rogue? Changing things like the rogue's level scaling on the damage modifier for toxins. Just get everything in the game. That's a completely insignificant change. Like changing the toxin damage doesn't do anything in the game. Get everything in the game and then start turning the dials. I think that would be a really good thing to do. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I am going to go and have a little bit of food, and then I will get online. I've been patching while I've been doing this, so it should be all patched and ready to go. I'm going to grab online and go and grab some of the new items which are in the game for certain of my classes. And also have a look at some of the items that we've got. So, thanks very much, everybody. Take care, and I will see you in Terminus. Bye-bye.